6:05, so I'll call to order the joint EDA Planning Commission meeting for October 21st, 2021. Lisa, do you want to do the roll, see who's here so far?
Yes, we have from the Economic Development Authority, Robert Dew. Here. Kevin Fuller, absent. Donald Jensen.
Here.
Tom Shifsky.
He's on Zoom.
He is. Just waiting for him. Oh. Tom, can you hear me?
Raise your hand, Tom, if you can hear us.
Oh, he's connecting now. Yep. Okay. Okay, Tom, can you hear us now? We saw that you just connected your audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Alan.
That was Al.
Okay, so we have Tom Shifsky is here on Zoom. I'm going to record that. Brett Gary is absent. And we have Mayor Terry Furlong.
Here.
We have Council Representative Tim Cole is absent. We have from the Planning Commission, Chair Elaine Barton.
Here.
We have Commissioner Patrick Blees. I didn't hear from him, and he's not on Zoom. We have Commissioner Eric Brenna, who sent me an email. He's absent. Commissioner Rick Gelbman. Here. Commissioner John Mungy is absent. I did receive an email. Commissioner Andrew Weiss is here via Zoom.
Yep, present.
Commissioner Alan Warm.
Oh,
And Council Liaison Lisa Wong.
Here.
Okay. And then for staff, we have Brandy Howe with WSB, City Planner. And myself.
Okay. All righty. I guess unless anybody has anything they want to add to the agenda, we'll just go ahead and accept that as presented.
If I could just add the planning, or the Arts Council, just wants to make a
Sure.
little presentation. I don't know if you want to put that on business or
Yeah, well,
just
I'll add it just so we know they're coming,
comment.
about 6:30. Okay. All righty, then that's the agenda for the evening. We don't have any minutes to approve, and usually we would just approve, I think, the minutes at our various meetings, at our actual business meetings, because this is really just a discussion-type workshop. So I know you can't take it off the agenda, but that's why we don't have any. Do we have anybody from the public? Okay.
You do not.
And we don't need to do our meeting open to the public. Don't have any public hearings, so we'll move on to our business action items and recommendations, really discussions. And the first item is planned improvements to the city-owned parking lot, the one south of Luther Auction, and vehicle and pedestrian bicycle connection to 7th, and electric vehicle charging stations. So who's going to discuss that? Robert?
Sure, I'll kick it off anyways. So there, I think as most of the folks in the room know, that there is dollars set aside in the capital improvement plan to improve the lot south of, I'll just say Tracy Luther's auction house there. And I believe it's about 195 stalls, plus or minus. We've seen a couple preliminary layouts provided by WSB in terms of what could be done out there that shows islands and, park horizontally, you get this many, park diagonally, you get this many, et cetera. This, for us on the EDA, parking within the city is becoming a real concern with business attraction and retention at some level. And so we wanted to make sure that this project did not get glossed over in any fashion, and that's not speaking ill of what, the staff's plan and what they would do with it, but I think there's a lot of stakeholders involved in this, besides the adjacent properties, both north and south of the parking lot, but all of the businesses on 7th, as well as, businesses in and around the downtown district. So we wanted to make sure that we had a discussion with planning in terms of, whatever, from your perspective, whatever planning commission's looking at in terms of, whether it's bicycle traffic through the city, pedestrian traffic, things of this that tie into maybe the downtown street improvement plan, and those types of efforts. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to weigh in on this plan, that it doesn't move quickly through staff or outside engineering and all of a sudden it's underway and it's too late to do anything about it. Couple of things that we have talked about at the EDA that we think need to be addressed and at some point on the continuum. We are scheduled to get 2 electric vehicle chargers from the Minnesota Municipal Power Association, I think as part of our participation and membership there. I don't know if they're being granted to us or we're paying, but I know we have 2 coming in. City Electric has confirmed that there is a pipe to provide primary service was installed during the road reconstruction to serve those charging stations. We've discussed it, and I guess I'll speak for myself, but I'm of the contention that the way things are going with the electric vehicles, 2 to me is wholly inadequate for a number of reasons. I think we're seeing more and more electric vehicles on the road. I think that there's an opportunity, if we're putting in 2, at least make provisions for additional ones. Whether we've done some preliminary research. I personally don't own one, although I probably will at some point on the continuum. But, the Tesla models have a specific plug-in, and then all of the others apparently have a different plug-in, so it's not completely universal. But the Tesla ones come with adapters, and I just think that having those available in the city parking lot will be good for a lot of reasons, but from an economic development standpoint, I think will it be a deciding factor on pulling people into the city to come and have dinner or come and shop or what have you? Maybe not, but I think it will help. And so I think it's something that we really need to think about and consider as part of this process, about getting more in there, or at least the provisions for more than the 2 that we've planned for in the planning. In addition to that, we at one point, and there is a map up on the screen there. At one point, the EDA had purchased a property on 7th out of foreclosure with the intent of effectively demolishing the building and creating a park-like and pedestrian friendly connection between that parking lot and 7th Avenue. That property was redeemed, so we do not have control of that property any longer, but we have had discussions with WSB, with Morgan at WSB, about considering opportunities that may exist in some of the spaces between the existing buildings there to do something, still do something similar to create a good, positive connection to 7th. Because if you look at it, you can see the Margaret Street sign or the Margaret Street label there. If you look at it as it is, anybody that parks back there would effectively be visually forced to exit on the far west side out to Margaret Street. And the way it is now, even in some of the preliminary drawings we've seen, does not provide really good, safe pedestrian access out to Margaret, not across the street to where the new restaurant is going, and beyond. And so that is something I think we need a very strong focus on. But in addition to that, I think we have real opportunities to create a connection going north out of that parking lot and depositing pedestrians and bicycles, et cetera, out onto 7th. And I see that lot as a very good resource for the city, and having stared at it outside my office window for more than a decade, it just doesn't get used. It doesn't get used because it's in disrepair, it's not well lit, the traffic patterns are not really good. So I just, we want to encourage the group that's working on it to be fully engaged and make sure that we are, considering doing this correctly. And as far as planning is concerned, the reason we wanted to make sure we brought it up with planning is because, there's certainly other things I'm sure that planning's in tune with that I haven't mentioned here, whether that's bicycle parking or, bicycle lanes or how do we treat the neighbors to the south. There could be a host of issues there too. So that's why we put it on the agenda. We just want to make sure this one isn't get designed and funded and rubber stamped and constructed in a manner that's not usable or optimal.
Okay, thanks. Comments? Planning Commission? You have to watch the screen to see if anybody raises their hand or starts talking.
Well, I certainly would say, I agree with you that having additional electrical, for electric cars and stuff, that makes a lot of sense. Whether we actually, have the devices, the connection actually there, or if we're just, providing for it in the future, that really makes a lot of sense, because it sure seems like that's where we're headed. And having a forward-looking perspective for the city is valuable in itself, and that certainly says we're looking towards the future.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with that. I wouldn't necessarily give any kind of number on the charging piece, but I do think it also is kind of an encouragement too, not only to visitors but to residents, that the city supports this, renewable energy or less gasoline usage, I guess I'd put it. The thing that I think we struggle with, and certainly I'm sure that the engineers are, is trying to accommodate both the vehicles, the pedestrians, and bicycle, because that all goes together in a walkable downtown. So any connection that can be made between that parking lot and 7th, I think really would be extremely helpful. And certainly in the plans are pocket parks, which are really very small areas, but it doesn't take a lot of area to put some green and then have a place for people to sit, and also to get from that parking lot, because it's such a long or wide, however you want to put it, that to have to walk all the way to a corner if you park in the center to get to a front door is not convenient. And I think that's why a lot of the businesses treasure that 7th Street parking, because that's direct access into their buildings. So I do think you had the photo up there, or the depiction up there, but I seem to recall there's a couple areas. One, isn't it next to Shangri-La? Isn't there a black-topped area that you can track? I believe I've done that.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
two. I don't have the cursor, the luxury of the cursor here, but you can see what's that, the rectangular white-topped building right there, Lisa, if you, to the left, right, to your right.
Yeah.
To your right. It's almost center of the page here. No, that little white and blue, it looks like a swimming pool almost, in the middle, on the building.
Just go building by building and show. There you go. Rick will show you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, there you go. Right, so just to the east of that, I guess we'll call it the east or northeast, there is a pretty significant thoroughfare there. Now, we don't own that. I believe that is owned by Tracy Luther, an entity owned by him. That is something that, in talking with Morgan, we targeted as a potential opportunity, and that is something that the EDA can certainly take on and have discussions as to what may or may not happen there. I don't know that we get vehicles through there, and I don't know that we need to, but it's wide enough to create a pretty nice thoroughfare. We could add some green space. It's almost center mass of the parking lot. And as far as the parking, you mentioned the, I don't know what term you use, but I kind of call it, micro parks or downtown parks.
Pocket parks.
Pocket parks, there you go. I think, I personally would seriously question the 190, do we need 195 stalls? Could we use them? Sure. I personally would forego a whole bunch of them to create a really nice parking lot with some green space, good safe pedestrian traffic through there. I think it would be worthwhile to create a really nice parking area down there.
Well, I think that also, I hate to say it, but it reinforces the fact that we're trying to create a walkable area and pedestrian friendly. So the goal isn't to get as many cars, other than during the car show, to get as many cars downtown as we can. It's to get as many people. And if they walk there, that's better. Then we don't need the parking. It's one of the reasons some cities are going to not requiring parking at all now with new development, to just kind of set that tone. The other thing I would say with that particular parking lot, the pedestrian access is important because it also needs to accommodate those with disabilities. And you don't want, you're not going to have necessarily sidewalks within the parking lot, so to have reasonable proximate access to 7th really does make a difference, because it gets tricky when you have such a large parking area, really without any good borders, for sidewalk purposes. So I would just encourage Morgan and company to keep that in mind. Rick?
As long as we're kind of exploring, possibilities and kind of visioning a little bit, I think it'd be worthwhile taking a look at the possibility of putting in solar panels. I mean, parking lots to start with tend to have good sunlight, and building on, having charging stations, to go even further and to have the possibility of solar panels available as part of what's in there, might be worth exploring. I don't know if that's possible or not.
Yeah.
And
Sherry?
I think having Brian from Electric, he's part of that MPAA, or what's municipal power.
Minnesota Municipal.
I think they understand the solar part. They also understand the need for electric. That's why we're getting 2 of them, and just having the capacity down there to expand as needed. We need power down there to be able to do that. So I think, thinking ahead of making sure that we have all that in place, so that, Robert, you mentioned you want more, but we don't know how many more, but have the capacity down there so we can expand at certain times.
And you might want to spread them out, too. You don't necessarily
Correct.
need them all in a row. Somebody nodding up there on Zoom, but did you want to say something?
Well, I think we're all in more or less agreement here. Certainly, charging stations are good. Like it's been said, I don't. 2 is probably okay for now, and having more capacity for later is good. But I think the most important part is that it's a statement that we're supportive of that, and it's something we're thinking about, and that of course ties into the solar panels too. To me, in a way, the pedestrian experience connecting that lot to 7th Street is really the most important thing, in my opinion. I think in terms of the actual lot itself, at our last meeting, we talked about concerns of Public Works about, the ability to plow it properly and easily, and the way it's designed right now, it's difficult for them to do that. I think because of the way the islands are set up. So to me, it would make sense, design it in a way where we're able to maintain it in the best possible way, giving Public Works the best access and ability to make it actually function well, even in the winter. That, of course, will extend the life of it. But I think the most amount of attention and money probably should try and go into bringing people from that lot out to the place where we actually want them to be, rather than in the parking lot. And it sounds like, there's agreement on that as well too. And I think it would be a great opportunity to use one of those commercial slots to be able to bring people out to 7th, as has been said. And that's even, depending on how it's structured, that's, even a really good possibility for whoever is, using those 2 commercial spots on either side of that, because that gives you an entire other storefront, basically, that you can use and advertise in and draw people in with, and activate with outdoor seating. And I don't see any downsides to that, in my opinion, at least. So I think, generally I agree with a lot of what's been said, and I would fight for the pedestrian experience over everything else, basically.
Okay, thanks. One thing I was going to mention, and that has to do with, because of the pedestrian aspect of it, and that really is where, we want people to be, is on 7th and walking up and down. I wouldn't encourage it to be used for traffic, between, I don't think we need another turn, let's put it that way, off 7th into parking, to that back lot at any rate. We've got it signed pretty well, and if we get access from there to 7th, I think we're better off than putting another turn off of 7th. I do notice when I come out of one lot, the one up by Sidewinders, that's the one I use when I go down to the hair salon. And when I come out of there, it's really difficult sometimes to make the turn because of our angled parking on 7th. So that would just be my feedback, is certainly, and if that just interrupts pedestrian flow if you have people turning or having to wait on the sidewalk to make a turn while they wait for a traffic opening. That's just my input on that. But can we put that on pause, and I'll have, because I notice our arts and culture representatives came in.
Sure.
So, and because it was mentioned that, this could be a seating area, or it could be used for public art, or it could be, you'd have building sides that potentially could be murals. So I will let the arts and culture representatives come up and introduce themselves. And I just thought it might be an opportune time.
Perfect. Hi, Tom.
Favorite Chairperson Barton. Hello, Mr. Mayor. Rick, Lisa, and everybody on TV. Hi, so we want to take a moment. Appreciate you giving us this time. My name's Tom Sonic. I'm the chair of the new Arts and Culture Commission. It's Trudy Onsorg. She's the co-chair of the Arts and Culture Commission, and we have 3 other members who are not with us here tonight. But we are just getting started. We formed about 1 month ago, and one of the things that we're trying to do is ingratiate ourselves with all the other intergovernmental agencies that exist throughout the city. It's one of the things that we're trying to do. So I wanted to just start by introducing who we are, and then Trudy's going to just walk through a little bit about how we're starting to come together as a group and what are those key elements required for us to build a foundation for the long haul for this thing. We are not thinking about just doing a couple quick hits and moving on. We want to have an Arts and Culture Commission that is a long-lasting fixture in the city of North St. Paul. So I'll let Trudy take it from here.
Okay. Thank you, Tom, and thank you for
Get up
this.
on the mic.
Get by the mic. All right. This opportunity to be here tonight, to be with you. Okay. Okay. Will do. All right. Yeah, I think it is. So we, as Tom mentioned, have only been meeting for a little over a month now, but we've been very busy and focused. So we've determined that our purpose is to inspire connection and community through the development of public art and cultural expression. And along with that, then, we've come up with some very sort of large directional statements that will help to guide our work. And so these 4 statements are, we're looking to have broad and collaborative representation. We're looking to have sustainable funding sources. We want exceptional and engaging artists and ideas, and clear bylaws and procedures. And those are our 4, and I'll talk a little bit more about each of them. And my apologies back here, because my back is to you, so, okay. So starting with broad collaborative representation, we see that coming in a number of different ways. So one is through community representation, and that could be through schools or churches, youth groups, seniors. I'm relatively new to the area, so there's something called the Green Team, which I'm really interested in learning more about. Higher ed, maybe the North St. Paul History Museum. There's so many opportunities to connect and collaborate and engage. Also collaboration with the business community. So there's the North St. Paul Business Association, Chambers of Commerce, the Rotary Club, and so on. We're also looking at intergovernmental connectivity, such as connections with the City Council and those commissions, the Economic Development Authority, Ramsey County Library, legislators, that list can go on, as well as external research and guidance. So there are other cities who have already established arts commissions, and we can learn from them. There's the League of Minnesota Cities, the University of Minnesota Extension, Metropolitan Arts Council, and so on. So we're just getting started, but we understand that this is not the work of 5 people. This is the work of this small but mighty group who would then engage and learn and build together. So broad collaborative representation. The second one is sustainable funding sources. So we're looking at state and local funds and want to thank the city for their seed money. It's very important. We're also looking at partnerships, and that could be with Parks and Rec and so on. So looking local, but then also looking broader, arts and legacy funding, foundation grant writing. So we see some of this funding coming from our municipal sources, but probably as we get our feet on the ground and so on, we see the majority of that coming from other foundations through grant writing and so on. Also, business funding. So we can be developing partnerships with our local businesses. For example, maybe there's a mural project where we partner on the expenses related to that project if it's going to be benefiting a particular business. Partnering with Main Street Association and so on. Also just fundraising in general. So just examples that are kind of off the top of my head. Maybe if we end up doing those big snowmen as our project, kind of like the Peanuts characters, individuals or businesses might sponsor their snowman for a year. There's different ways that we could do fundraising. Maybe we host an art fair, and I used to live in River Falls, and we hosted an art fair. I was on their arts commission, and that is a fundraiser. there's other things that we can do related to fundraising. And with all of that, we'll be creating this annual budgeting process and flow so that we can start to forecast what are the resources that we're anticipating, how then can we look at our spending, and how can we develop more long-term strategies in terms of projects big and small. The third big direction that we're looking at is exceptional and engaging artists and ideas. So there's a lot of project types that we could get into. So many possibilities. You know, we were talking about murals, maybe the big snowman, statues, wrapping electrical boxes like some other cities are doing, sculptures, there's hands-on, there's wide range. And we'll be looking at that and asking people what their thoughts are. Related to artists, we would like to emphasize local artists and talent, but also bring in other talents as that is possible. Want to create avenues for youth to participate and to have art be part of their experience and their memories as they're creating them of what it's like to be in North St. Paul. One example, so I was down in Red Wing. They have an art fair, and I was down at their art fair a couple weeks ago, and the kids were doing sidewalk murals. All sorts of possibilities to engage with our youth. And then project locations, so many locations looking at our downtown, our Main Street, looking at parks, maybe parking lots. Might be locations that are event-specific or buildings or areas around the city. Lots of opportunities. And then finally, but actually probably most important and the foundational thing is we need clear bylaws and procedures. There will be lots and lots of ideas, and everyone's going to have an opinion about how this should all work. And the whole process needs to be understandable, it needs to be fair. So the commission itself needs to have standards, and we're working on developing what that looks like. Rules about our membership and our rules about our terms. How do we work together as a commission, and how do we interface with the rest of the city governance structure? And then communication. So we're starting now with these introductions to different branches of our city government, and then we'll be reaching out more broadly with the community. We want to create ways to communicate out and have clear channels of ways that our community can communicate back to us. Because it's so important that we're going to receive that community input and then act on it. And then related to that, project selection and prioritization. That will be key. We need to have processes that are transparent and processes that are fair. And the same thing goes for the funding allocation. So we have a couple questions for you. And you've got big questions. We'll be asking these same two questions of a lot of people and organizations going forward. The first one is, how do you think that the city can benefit from this Arts and Cultural Commission?
I got asked it the other night and I answered it, so I'm going to leave it to you.
Well, I think from EDA's perspective, one of the things, we're about business attraction and retention, and one thing that really helps attract businesses is people, traffic, how much traffic you got. Everybody wants to know how many, what's your traffic count on 7th Avenue or whatever. And so anything along these lines that helps bring people, gives people a reason, whether it's the primary reason or a ancillary reason, hey, let's go to North St. Paul and do this, and we can look at the statue or whatever, whatever piece of art might be here, I think is a great thing and just adds to the overall effort of building a more vibrant and economically stable city. And so I think it's a great idea. I was going to add one of the things that jumped out at me, and I was just kind of perusing here online while you were talking, and was the funding side. I spent 25 years as a commercial contractor building all around the metro and the state and the country as far as that goes. And it's very common for commercial permits, not for residential permits. It's very common to have a public art fee attached to the permit fee schedule. So I would consider that. I don't ever remember. I remember lots of excessive fees, but I don't ever remember being taken aback by the, public art tack on, if you will. That is one way that is a potential to create a ongoing, funding source, for this type of thing. And there's some great cities too. A couple years ago, we were doing a project down in Omaha, and they clearly have a vibrant. I don't know if they call it an arts commission or who does this, or I don't think people are just throwing up statues with their own money, so somebody's driving it. But they have some really neat, just, in some of their downtown districts, you walk around and really neat stuff
That's a great thought, Robert, and honestly, I feel like we're a little late to the party with this. There are so many cities, and as we started thinking about this, as you travel around, you see it everywhere now. And I think it's, it's something we could have been doing. Too bad there aren't any big development projects coming up around here where we could have worked in a arts fee, but.
they'll be happy to donate. We know those guys.
I'm just going to comment too, because you talked about, I'll talk about art on the street. We used to do that. Was it during
Crazy Days.
Crazy Days? It was during Crazy Days, exactly. But aside from that, just from the perspective of, we have the downtown area, but people are also intrigued by something that isn't a shopping necessarily related. In other words, it's a quiet space in some cases. It's just a place to go and gather yourself. Particularly if you're corralling a bunch of kids maybe around town, you get to just have a moment to relax. So it's just one of those quality of life issues as well. And I think that really matters because it's not just about drawing people to North St. Paul, it's about the people who live here and providing them a benefit that they might not even have realized is a benefit. So that would be my 2 cents. Rick, or,
I think Don's got something too.
oh, I'm sorry.
One of the things I was thinking about funding, and our state rep for Kier is the chairman of the House Legacy Commission. And it's a biennial budget. They just went through the budgeting process this spring, so they won't go around for another 2 years, but I'm assuming he will continue to be the chairman. If not, he'll be at least the ranking minority person, and that might be an opportunity, especially if we want to get a kickoff project that, we would have to obviously present them with what our ideas are and everything, but that might be an opportunity.
That's Leon?
Yeah.
Most budgets, by the way, have a miscellaneous line.
Yeah, all right.
No, Tom, like you said, a lot of cities do have arts commissions and are doing sort of these similar things with the different characters you can put out on the street that's somehow related to the town. But I think, you know, and I sort of always wander back to this point. You know, I'm a relatively new resident here, and I'm always amazed at the history here, and you know, the importance of place. And you know, we have a much longer history than a lot of our surrounding suburban neighbors here. We have a downtown that a lot of other people don't have. We have the Gateway Trail. There's so many things here that are very specific to our context and to our place here. And to me, the art, the public art that always is the most impactful and things that people remember and, you know, come back to are the ones that are really tied to place. And we have so many things here that I think are just waiting to be talked about in some way or promoted or celebrated. And the Arts Commission is such a perfect vehicle for that. And so I'm really excited that you guys are up and running, and I think there's a lot of amazing things that you'll be able to do, and I'm happy you're here.
Excellent, thanks.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Rick? Or Al?
Oh, Al,
Did he,
go ahead.
You hear me?
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead,
Can't
Al.
hear me?
Did you want to say something, Al?
Yes, those silos that Tom Chesky was gonna put up, there was some talk about putting murals on those. Have you considered that?
Yeah, the Shifsky's project, yeah.
We have Tom Shifsky on, I think you put him on the spot, Tom.
Well, he was going to work with the city, which would now maybe be through the Arts and Culture Commission.
Tom was not in these meetings, mind you, so he may not know that he's getting a mural.
Oh,
Well, it didn't have to be a mural. We just said, you know, some artwork of some kind. But that's, like I say, work, I think now that would be the way that it would be handled, would be to work with the arts and culture when they're ready, you know, when they feel comfortable doing that. So I'm sure Tom is nodding right now. So, we're good. Thank you, Al, for reminding us.
I have another statement. You mentioned North St. Paul Green.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as of last night, they're officially disbanded
Oh,
Oh, no.
because there's no more projects to work on. So it has to be somebody, if you want to get there,
Oh, that's right.
talk to my toy lady wife, and she'll get you the people that you can contact. Some of our first year members, and see if you can revitalize that group.
Okay.
so we did have a meeting with the North St. Paul Green, and we kind of put it on hiatus right now. We didn't disband it totally. I mean,
Okay.
there were some people who wanted to, but I said, no, I think we just need to regroup, and we have all these new residents coming into downtown. You might be able to, you know, recruit people from the new townhomes that are being built, so we're going to try to resurrect it, and there's some people from the North St. Paul Green who are gonna try to bring it back, so,
Good.
I
I
think
mean,
Rick-
that's a plus.
yes.
That is a
Very much a
plus.
plus.
Okay.
Yes, Rick?
And maybe what I'm going to say is just kind of reiterating some of what others have said, but I think that there's such a great opportunity with the, with the Arts Council to be able to communicate about our community's identity. And that's valuable both for the people that live here and the new people that are going to live here, but also for people visiting us. And having kind of some organized way of communicating that and kind of some unity to it, I think is a great great opportunity.
Yeah, Rick,
Okay.
I just want to say that when we first got this commission together, the people on this commission are really great and strong. And you know, what my initial idea was like, let's dress this place up a little, you know, let's put some stuff out there. And some of the ideas that were brought from the other team members, not the least of which was that the purpose of doing this is to be an expression of the people who live here. You know, so that idea of bringing the culture and some expression of who we are as a
As a
community.
community, yeah.
You know, people who have been here for multiple generations, or people who are new to the area as well. And you know, what does North St. Paul mean? I mean, I think people have different ideas about that, but I really loved that idea that the commissioners brought to this.
I just want to mention Lisa Wong is our council rep for the
Yes.
commission, who's going to be a great asset for that. Also, I had a meeting yesterday with the Veterans Committee, and from the Veterans Committee, we're looking at a Freedom, what do they call it? Freedom Rock. Freedom Rock, and that has artwork on a boulder representing veterans in some way or another. So I contacted Arts Council and said that, you know what, the Veterans Park is looking at doing some sort of artwork down there, and we might turn that over to them for one of their projects to look at and help us facilitate that. So, Councilmember Wong, you're going to be busy, I think.
Priority aren't already.
Okay, anyone else?
I would just add a little piece of advice. I was just, you guys are a new commission and getting going, and I started on the EDA when it wasn't even the EDA. In 2008, it was a commission group or something. I don't even know what we called it, but it took us a long time to get our legs under us. And I would suggest that even until the last couple years, it took till we really felt like we were affecting things and activity and change. So stick with it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
There'll be lots of ups and downs, and do the little things along the way. But yeah, I think over time, this will be a great thing for the city.
Great
Thank
advice.
you.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, and sometimes little gains.
Yep.
I mean, there's always the big projects, but there's also little gains that, you know, that show progress, and don't discount those either.
Right.
All right, well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
for coming.
Appreciate the time.
All righty.
Do we want to just put a bow on the parking lot?
Yeah, I think we're good on unless anybody else has anything they want to say about the parking lot.
Yeah, one thing for us, I just want to throw it out there for consideration. You know, I'm hearing a lot about getting pedestrians out there. Let's get these businesses popping. I think one thing that, you know, I think quite a bit about when I think of parking lots is making it multi-use. And you talked about the pocket parks and can people, you know, sit in the area, or, you know, how can we make a safe pathway to the parking lot? And I also want us to kind of think about exploring a parking lot that has multiple functions. So we talked about solar as a, you know, way to generate more parking spaces that are electrified. And then I also think about St. Paul and how they have the St. Paul Farmers Market down by CHS Field, and where they host the parking, or the market is actually a parking lot most of the day. So they have that big, you know, overhang. So could we put solar on that so it can electrify the cars in there when, you know, and then maybe someday we will have an art fair that's hosted under, you know, that space and what have you. And Public Works won't necessarily need to do too much maintenance underneath because it's covered, but maybe in the general area. So there may be some win-win-wins in that regard, but thinking of it as a multi-use space, an event space even.
Yeah.
What would that look like?
I think, I mean, that's a wonderful idea. I think my overarching concern is, I know that this is presently, there's a budget for that, for some amount of work in that parking lot in the current capital improvement plan. My concern is that this thing, it gets momentum to whatever somebody thinks it is at this point. It's something that nobody likes, gets put in place, and we won't get a chance to readdress this for a long time. And so I don't know I have an idea, but I'm not, the normal process that an improvement like this would go through, I think it's incumbent upon probably council to make sure that there is engagement at appropriate level from the appropriate parties to, talk about all the things we talked about tonight and incorporate them as much as we can. And I would even suggest that if those dollars got to carry over to a future year because we haven't quite figured it out, we'd be better off winding up with something really good in 2023 than something marginal in 2022.
Well, my expectation, this would be my expectation, is that when there is a project, when there's enough information, here's what we think is the best plan, that would come to the Planning Commission before it would go to the council for approval. I don't see why it wouldn't. That's a huge undertaking in downtown, and it's critical to downtown. And it isn't something you just slap together and say, well, we paved it over, so we're good to go. That would be my expectation.
That was the direction it was headed at one point.
Okay. Yes, Al? Was that?
I have a question on the parking. Will that new building going up at the corner, Margaret and 7th, the parking building, will they need overflow guard parking? They know?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I think the question was, will they, the new apartment building with the retail on the corner, will they require that lot for overflow parking?
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, I would say, certainly.
Yeah, restaurant usually.
For the restaurant, if nothing else.
I think that's the flow of the traffic will go. It's not out in front, it's
Right.
a parking lot out.
There's no designation for residents to have assigned parking in that lot, but
No, but that's cared for by the apartment complex itself. And
Correct.
certainly, when it's a downtown business, essentially, that's shared parking.
Right.
So the expectation is that a business that comes in, even if it's part of a residential, is going to be able to use the shared parking. We don't, so that's how it was intended to work, which is why it is important to get that lot as quickly as we can, get it in shape that somebody would be willing to park in it.
And also, when we do redesign the parking lot, all the parking spaces that come off of Margaret Street should be diagonal parking so they can drive right in instead of circling the parking lot to park. Understand what I just said?
No, I didn't, I'm sorry.
When you turn off of Margaret Street and go into the parking lot, your diagonal parking, you can be able to pull right in there and park without walking around or circling the parking lot, trying to find a parking spot.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons I think that, again, once there's an actual plan, that when that comes for review, that's the time you can really assess, are there tweaks that ought to be made? So I don't think anything is detailed enough yet, Al, but obviously you want the flow through the parking lot to be easy.
And we even talked about pedestrians as they come out of the parking lot.
Yes.
Are they going to walk all the way down to the corner to cross, or are they going to take the least, distance is to walk straight across, and that might be a pedestrian walkway
Right.
across that?
And that's why you accommodate them, so they know where to cross, and then they're not crossing everywhere where now you have potential safety issues. So that will be a work in progress.
Now
Okay.
we can put a bow on it.
Put a bow?
Put a bow on it?
No, but don't tie it.
No.
Put a ribbon.
The topic.
Then we'll go on to item B, which is vision for the parcels west of the post office.
Sure. So we wanted to share this as the EDA. We are engaging with some outside groups, specifically with the Port Authority. As you know, as most people probably know, the Port Authority is, they've purchased and are redeveloping the old Hillcrest Golf Course over on McKnight and, what is that, Larpenteur? Like McKnight and Larpenteur. And we've had some discussions with them about assisting us in helping with some of our redevelopment. I won't get into all the details of that, but it is something that they do. It's part of their charge. And we see the Lilly building currently is for sale. Along with that building, there is the I think it's currently a hair salon, a shorter one-story building to the west of that, and then there is, what do we call that building on the corner?
Old coffee shop.
The old coffee shop slash apartments or whatever's going on there. We see that as a key parcel for future development within the city, and so we're actively undertaking steps to attempt to, if not control, certainly weigh in on the outcome of whatever happens down there. And I just wanted to share that with planning, so you know that we are working on it. I will say that also, that we are undertaking it not with any end in mind necessarily. I think that's part of why revisiting the redevelopment master plan and looking at, what are the needs of the city with all of the new development and things going on. What should it be? What does it need to be, et cetera? But it is a key parcel in our downtown district, and so I just wanted to let planning know that we're undertaking those efforts as we speak.
Okay. Anybody want to comment? Okay, thanks. Then on to item C, which is business retention efforts. And again, this was one that I was just interested in. I thought it might be helpful for all of us to understand what kinds of efforts you're planning, just for retention of existing businesses going forward, if any. I mean, I don't know if you have any laid out.
No,
or not.
yeah, fair. Are you asking just because it's in our mission statement, or no?
No, I'm asking
No,
because I'm curious.
No, no, it is part of the EDA charge, and I won't go way back, but I'll go back a few years anyways. Several years ago, we were fairly active in conducting what we call business and retention visits with businesses in town, and really kind of picked them at random. But we tried to get to a lot, and I think we did. I don't know the number, Mr. Mayor, you might know better, 25 to 30 maybe?
I want to say 30 plus.
30 plus, right. And we had developed a questionnaire, and it was all of the items you might suspect, what do you like, what don't you like? We tried to keep it from just being a grievance session, but to try to understand what the business owners in town at the time, what the pulse was. And one of the reasons we were, one of the key things we wanted to uncover was that what we didn't want to happen was there be an active business in downtown or in the city that was considering going elsewhere because of either real or perceived. There's no more room for me here. We're expanding. We need more room. And they look left and they look right, and there's nothing there, so they look elsewhere. We wanted to make sure that we tried to get in front of that. And we were pretty active. I will say in the last couple of years, that has waned a little bit, maybe primarily with development activity and some of the other things going on. But it is certainly on our agenda. I think we've circulated, at least at this point, kind of recirculated a questionnaire. We have not scheduled any visits that I'm aware of.
We did about 8 visits, and I want to say about a month ago.
Okay.
It was Brett Gary, myself, Archie Vickerman. The three of us went up and down the avenue and had a questionnaire, same type of questions that we had before. You know, what are any concerns or whatever? And it was pretty much, everyone was real happy with what's going on in the downtown. You know, the development, you know, it's gonna increase traffic, it's gonna increase, you know, the streetscape is looking really nice. You know, everybody was very positive. We had those initially, and then it just kind of, things got busy. The city manager, you know, lost him, and, you know, now it's.
Last year wasn't.
And like, right, I mean, it's been a tough year for, you know,
Well,
visiting.
one of the things that we did in the spirit of business retention efforts was, there seemed to be a disconnect between discussions that had been occurring at the North St. Paul Business Association meetings and what we were doing at the EDA or within the city at large. And so we did add Brett Gary, who is he the president of the Business Association, I believe? And Brett Gary sits on the EDA as a non-voting member, a liaison, if you will, to try to help bridge that gap. So if there is some chatter amongst the business community that we should be aware of, you know, that's a conduit to be able to hear that. So that is another, I thought, a big step that we took to try to be more engaged with the business community. And
The other thing that Lisa Wong and I did, we also, during the PPP stuff and the pandemic, visited some of the Hmong population over by Target to get a feel for them also. You know, how is this affecting you? Are you getting help? You know, Lisa, maybe if you want to just say a few words on that.
Yeah, I think, you know, the businesses that were out there, we're really grateful that we were out and just checking in on them. But I mean, a lot of the business owners out there, they have a lot of connections, and, you know, even Moe's Tropical, they are looking for a bigger space right now. They are bursting out of the seams. And, you know, so the community is very tight-knit, the Hmong community, very well organized. And I think, you know, connecting with the Hmong community would be a huge benefit economically as well. So I think there's a lot of potential with the Hmong community and in particular, yeah, and the Karen community, the Hmong and Karen community.
yeah, so the additional item, one of the, I don't pose it as an excuse, but as far as I'm just a factual matter for the EDA is we have lacked a full-time staff person for quite some time, and normally, or in years past, you know, the expectation would be that the staff person, that's one of the things that they have the ability to do during the day is engage, you know, with those businesses more directly, keep their finger on the pulse. So we're talking about that internally, and we're just presently waiting for, frankly, because that staff member more than likely will have some shared responsibility within the city. So we're waiting for the city manager hire and wait for that to unfold. But that will also help the cause of business retention efforts. So.
We worked with the Center for Community Vitality at the University of Minnesota Extension. They have a economic division in which they work with different communities, typically smaller communities, sometimes in more rural spaces, but on economic development and downtown revitalization. So that's kind of some of the work that they do. They may have some resources and maybe technical assistance in terms of maybe having some research while you wait for the city manager in that position to come along.
Yeah, that in our engagement with the Port Authority is actually to that end. I always thought of the Port Authority as the people that sell land for $1, but they actually have a lot of resources to assist municipalities with their economic development goals and efforts. And so that is something that we're presently trying to leverage, and hopefully will help bridge the gap and could be a long-term relationship there as well, so.
Okay, well, just, and this is more a practical type of question. I guess I'll ask you, Terry, because I know that usually it seems to me it's the council or the mayor who does like the grand openings when various businesses come in. So is there something planned for the Brothers Restaurant and the Quick Trip? And do you know when those might be, or have they already happened?
Yep, so our communications person, Carrie Urbanbach, is working with the Brothers Restaurant right now for a ribbon cutting.
Okay.
Quick Trip is next Thursday,
Okay.
and that's at 10 o'clock, I believe. 10 or 11, it might be 10.
Their parking lot was pretty full
So,
today. I
yeah.
drove by a couple times.
So it's at 11 o'clock next Thursday, and everyone's invited. I don't know if everyone got the email for it, but the council did get the email. So the planning commission was probably not on that email list, and we'll make sure that gets extended
You know, I
to,
think I think actually it would be nice if you included all commissions
right.
on those emails, because that's just, a good information for everybody to have and maybe just be a part of.
Right.
So that would be my recommendation. Email is free, essentially, so.
Lisa, can you mention that to Gary tomorrow? That'd be.
So
that'd be
next
great.
Thursday?
Next Thursday at 11.
Okay.
I do know it was in the most recent news article that she posted online, but I will ask her to send out email as well.
Be good.
For some reason, that seems easier, because when you're reading through that, there's a lot in that news thing that we get, which is great, but by the time you get done, it's like, I already forgot what I read 2 paragraphs ago. So you don't have a date for the Brothers
No.
yet, though? Okay.
Nothing yet. I know they're short-staffed right now, so they are, I know she's approached them, and they're just kind of getting their
Yeah.
feet, trying to figure it out right now.
Yeah, yeah. What a tough time to open. Okay, anybody have any?
Good food, though. Good food.
Yeah, did you go?
Yes, yes, we did.
Excellent. I'm thinking of going tomorrow morning. I haven't gone yet. I did get a menu, though, just so I could scope it out. Well, I'll just bring the EDA up to date a little bit on what the non-permit related issues that the Planning Commission, right now, the big thing that we're looking at is signage, our signage regulations, because we really do need to get them updated. And more than just updated, but really take a look at them and see if they meet, really fit what we'd like to have, let's put it that way. And that includes the downtown as well. And one of the other things that I know I have mentioned a couple times, we haven't really gotten into it, but it has come up in some various permits we have looked at, is the issue of our off-street parking requirements. And I do think that's another area where we could do some real work to put. Did you say on-street or off? Off-street. Because we do have some pretty significant requirements in some cases. And, again, in this age of denser population and walkability and non-vehicular travel, or at least non-single sole occupant vehicular travel, sometimes the off-street parking regulations get in the way of that. So that's, I think, probably after we do signage, that might be one of those areas we really want to tackle. So that's just kind of an update on the bigger items that we're thinking of. So, I think that's everything. I guess we can move on. We don't have any old business on the agenda. Any reports from staff?
I don't have a report, but I do want to apologize again for the error, the typo in the agenda, and I think it caused more problems than I ever hoped for. So I do apologize. Thankfully, everyone that is in attendance did get the email that went out today, and I did not get any feedback from anybody indicating that they wouldn't be able to make it because it was sick. So I feel okay about that, but I sincerely apologize.
Okay.
Don't beat yourself up, because we're going through a lot of changes within the city with OpenGov and all that, and the staff is learning hard, and, you know, it's
There's a lot.
it's a
going
learning process right now, and
Although she did mention that there were more problems that she hoped for, so she only hoped for a few problems, right? Right? I'm just kidding.
Never hope for any problems, but this one really put me under.
No, I
but I think
understand.
in the long run, you know, this is going to be very beneficial way of communicating to the city and be able to go through the process
Yes,
much easier.
absolutely. And to your point, Elaine, what I was referring to was the fact that the Arts Council were planning on coming here for the public hearing part at 6:30, and I didn't email them because I forgot they were gonna, so.
Yeah, no,
that-
no,
that
no,
ex-
no.
that's-
I
it just
understand.
snowballed.
I mean, we've,
Don't worry
these
about it.
wrinkles happen, particularly when you're going to a new system. And, you know, what you learn sometimes is it's not actually as flexible as you thought it might be. So now you have to change your plans a bit and adjust to it. So it's understandable.
We are also attentive. Nobody noticed until 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, right. I called Robert.
I noticed a little before that, because I printed the agenda. All righty, then, well, reports from council liaison. We only have one here. Did you want to report anything, Lisa?
What did I want to report? Well, one thing we talked about in council the other day is, we talked a little bit about arts and culture, but the idea of destination and really kind of honing in North St. Paul, particularly the downtown, as that. So just to know that we are kind of having those discussions too. And then I would also love to kind of hear a little bit about what your thoughts as chair and commissioners around the idea of parklets, because there's another issue that we have, and that's outdoor seating, and particularly, what does an open streets kind of look like? And there are friendly streets initiatives in Minneapolis and St. Paul and all over. But to really drive that economic development. And when I think about the EDA, I think about the Planning Commission, I think about the Arts and Culture Commission, I think of something called parklets. And they work really well in terms of adding additional seating. It does take away, a parking space. But since we're adding that whole other parking lot, this might be a nice supplement because it'll add additional seating to the more people that are coming outside. And they're almost like deck patios. I'd Google it.
You know what? I took a picture of one the other day. It was on the east side at a little coffee shop.
Cadence Records?
What is it?
Cadence Records?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Great one. You have a picture too.
But it allows seating, like a little patio area on a parking spot.
Yeah, no, I've seen those.
Yeah, and a lot of cities use different models, but sometimes the businesses will also, pay a portion because they do benefit. They can, have it open and seating. So whether that money goes to additional parking or additional, downtown beautification, et cetera, that might be a really great opportunity for us to think, how can we benefit from parklets and collaborate between the arts, EDA, and planning. And that's something that comes up in my head as a perfect example of what are the possibilities. But
Yeah, I was thinking about that actually in relation to the Brothers, because that's such a little parking lot there. And I thought, come next summer, they might want to, hopefully be in a position to have some outdoor seating. How could that be accommodated? Given that it's a small lot, and I've already seen people parking on the street because the little lot is full. So it is something I think that has some value, on a case-by-case basis. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Another item to put in the toolbox.
Well,
I think that that's, Councilmember Wong, I think that that is going to be really a key topic when we revisit the redevelopment master plan. Because in my, my review of that, and I think I talked about it in our annual report, was when I go back and revisit, one of the things that we've bypassed, we got a lot of neat, pretty buildings, but we really bypassed the green space component, the downtown green space component. And I know who I want to blame, but I won't do it since I'm on the mic.
Well, and I'd also mention the Sepulveda.
I'm a
piece,
tax
too.
revenue guy. We want the buildings, but, no, but we all have to work together. It's a
Yeah.
very important component that we kind of bypassed, and we got some catching up to do.
Well, and I think personally, I think the most difficult piece, I think the walkability is somewhat easier, but the making it bike-friendly is really going to be tricky because we've got the angle parking, so we have very few streets other than Sepulveda and Margaret and, some of the cross streets where we could take advantage of those. But that does get tricky when you're right on 7th. That's not a place you want to bike.
Right.
So, anyway.
If I could just,
We have Patrick Blees that would like to say something.
Oh, okay.
He's on.
Hi, Patrick.
what?
Hi.
What?
I'm not sure that I had a whole lot to say, except I wanted to support some of the comments made about the Arts Council stuff. And I was on my phone walking in the street trying to figure out how to unmute myself, and I couldn't figure out how to. So consider the comments made. I was just going to concur mostly with what was being said, just to share.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Then we'll unmark you as absent.
I appreciate that. I didn't get the 6 o'clock tag.
Oh, okay,
6:30, and then realized, oh, I should have been on a half hour ago, so.
okay.
Sorry.
Well, I'm glad you joined.
I
All
could
right,
just-
yes,
I
Terry.
could just add to the discussion in regards to, maybe having some outside seating or whatever, but we also need to set standards.
Yeah.
Because now we have outside patios that the restaurant, or the bars are able to have, and we talked to all the bar owners, we had a meeting with them. They would like for us to set a specific standard for them down there, so they're not just going to Menards and picking up the white, if it's a color, if it's a,
Material.
the material, but they would like for us to set that so that they're all on the same boat.
Okay,
And I think that's something that we need to work on
Yeah.
soon, and I don't know how we do that, if we just give that to the planning commission to start to look at that.
well, I'm trying to think back to, we do have the downtown revitalization plan that might have something about that in there. I just don't really recall, but it could certainly start there. And then I wouldn't have a problem getting the arts people involved, because, the planning commission has taken over design review.
Yep.
So it seems the place probably to take it, and we'll all have our opinions, and maybe we can come up with something that would, some recommendations.
So we need that sooner than later, so it's probably for next spring. So
Okay,
something
so are
to
you
work on.
handing it over technically right now, Mr. Mayor?
If I can do that,
Lisa, make a note of that.
I will. No, just for clarification, is it the surface, the stone?
no, this would be
or
the
furniture?
patio furniture.
Furniture?
Furniture.
Okay.
Setting a standard, and then having block off too, how they,
How you cordon it
How do
off,
you-
so to speak?
yep. So it's
Okay.
not just a rope, maybe I've taken
Oh,
pictures
yeah,
downtown White Bear, they've got outside standards
Yeah.
that have chains on them,
Yeah.
the plastic chains,
Yeah.
so.
With
That also
being
helps-
said, maybe we should try to coordinate with each establishment because you could buy in volume then and get a discount.
One thing, it's probably maybe a little bit too big for the sidewalks, but Goodrich Golf Course, their patio, they just purchased all new tables and chairs that's that dense plastic, and they have an inset that has their logo on it. So if, we came up with something like, maybe the snowman or something like that, that each one of the bars and restaurants could have a couple of tables. But I do know that sooner would be better than
Sure,
later,
yeah.
because that is a thing that sold out very quickly early this year and has been unavailable for most people who want that type of
Yeah.
material.
And I would expect the same thing will happen early next year.
Yes.
And
Okay, thank
working-
you.
And working with the bar owners too, I think would be very helpful, because they're very excited to work it out.
Yeah.
Will
Well,
the
and-
city be putting any money towards this, or will this be an individual?
I think it would be on the
Okay.
The
bar owners,
establishments.
the establishments.
Yeah, would need to be reasonably
Yep.
priced, obviously. Okay.
So
Well, she's got that on the list.
And so maintenance would then follow, okay, with the establishments as well. I think so.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? I'll zip down to reports from commissioners. I did actually have a question. Did all of you receive the letter from MinDOT
Yes.
regarding the Highway 36 work? No? No. Oh, that's interesting.
Just came out last
Lisa?
week.
I'd say no.
Yeah.
I didn't receive it either.
Okay. I was wondering if everyone got it, or if it was only certain,
I
you
just
know,
got it.
addresses. Pardon me?
I just got it
You
this,
just got it? Yeah, I got it,
like Monday.
yeah, Friday or Saturday or Monday, but not, and I just wondered if anybody knew what all is involved in this Highway 36 project. I know there's no detail online yet, but maybe somebody had some inside scoop, no?
That's the first time I heard.
Oh, so the city didn't even,
Edgerton to Greeley,
Yeah.
12 miles.
right.
Sounds like overlay.
Yep.
Well, and more than that, improvements for pedestrians, and I thought,
What is that?
what's that, and what's that have to do with North St. Paul? We just redid 36 not that long ago. Well, we didn't, but MinDOT did.
They bypassed us, so we'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, I think they plan to bypass us on the new route, the BRT route that they're planning too, to go from, what, Minneapolis to Stillwater? So, anyway, but I just thought I might as well bring it and ask, because I was kind of flummoxed, so I'll just have to keep watching that. Okay, if nobody has anything else, I'll pause here. No? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Terry,
Second.
Mayor Furlong.
Second?
Second by Robert and Rick. Everybody's eager to second that one. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. We're adjourned at 7:26. Sorry you were too late.
To the commission and the EDA and
Lisa
Councilmember
Ritchie.
Wong, Lisa. I think this works out really good, getting us two together.
Thank